welcome to the New Earth podcast, which will guide you towards awakening and the embodiment of your highest self through holistic living advice, science, yoga, personal experiences, and expert guests. Let's grow together and build a new Earth. I'm Nancy Crupi. I'm a scientist and I have a PhD in biology and 15 years of international scientific research experience in fields from inflammation to aging, neurobiology, nutrition, metabolic disorders, and much more. I'm also a Kundalini Awakened spiritual teacher, healer, and coach, and I practice and teach Kundalini Tantra.
And I'm Robie, Newman-Paris. I'm a biologist with experience in neuroscience, and I've studied the ancient yogic sciences as well as other Eastern philosophies with gurus and yogis while spending a year and a half in India and in Bali. I now teach Kriya Yoga, breathwork, and meditation, and help guide people in their spiritual development. Welcome back to another episode of the New Earth podcast. Today we're joined by a very special guest who's going to be speaking with us about Ayurveda, his own personal experiences with healing, self-development, and growth. So everyone, welcome Indy Rishi Singh.
Oh! All the ancestors are yelling, yeah!
Woo!
Hi, everyone. Before starting, I would like to introduce our today's product. So as you guys know, we try to have small businesses, but also especially products that help you with your awakening process and help you take care of your health and of your body in a holistic way. We have today this Kano cream. So I've tried this lotion, which is a facial lotion for anti-inflammatory with anti-inflammatory effects. And I tried it for the past week. And I have to say that I had really, really good effects. I like anti-inflammatory effects because I had a lot of Pitta energy, which we're going to be talking about today, what Pitta energy is. And I had a lot of Pitta energy due to stress and due to my fiery personality in general. And I was having acne because of that. And really, I used it for like 3-4 times in the past 7 days. And it really had helped me a lot. Like it really decreased the inflammation like a lot. So Indy, introduce yourself.
Wait, I want one of those creams too now. Jeez, that's awesome. Put it on whatever skin I still have outside of the beard, the eyebrows. Yeah, thank you. Wow. How do I, I think what you said right there hits on a chord for me. Because when I was in medical school and even undergrad, I started getting really bad issues with my skin. Like a combination of psoriasis and eczema. Obviously when you're like studying so much when you're in medical school and even pre-med, there's so much like stress. And there was like all these unhealthy things going on too. I had no like tools or resources of how to think about how the food was causing and stress was causing, food and drinks and stress were causing some of the issues. And it got really, really, really bad to the point where I was so ashamed, of the situation, my skin and everything. I wouldn't tell anybody about it. And just like it would exacerbate when there was like tests or any stressful events in my life. And I didn't know anything about Pitta at that time. I didn't know anything. Actually, I thought Ayurveda was a bunch of baloney. No disrespect to baloney, because sometimes there's healthy baloney out there somewhere, I'm sure. But I as an Indian, I had completely disavowed, right? Like both Ayurveda and yoga. I thought those were like only like hippies do them and only like weirdos do them, like only like, weird people do them. And I'm Indian, one generation, my parents, barely speak English. And like, here I am. And I just learned this recently. It's called acculturative stress. You guys heard of that word? Acculturative stress.
No, I have never heard of the word.
So
educate us.
We talk about all these kind of stress, right? But then there's different kinds of stress. There's acculturative stress, which acculturative stress is when you enter a dominant culture and you start to like disconnect from the culture you come from. And you drop those habits, those things that your ancestors developed over generations for resilience, for health, for all these different things, connection to ecology, connecting to each other. You start dropping them because you're trying to conform to a dominant culture. What do you think that dominant culture is?
I call it capitalism.
Yeah.
I call
and
it
in the US,
capitalism.
there's so many different cultures and there's such a history also of what you're talking about of suppressing the minority cultures. I mean, you saw it with the Native Americans, you saw it with all the immigrants coming in. So it's a trap that it's hard to escape when you're in this place.
And ultimately, the final cause, the root cause of all of this is ego, and we talk about it in our previous episode. So it's really like a capitalism is simply the fractalian expression on a higher scale of ego and trauma. That's what it is. We talked about that in the second or third episode, I believe. So let's introduce you first so that people who know who you are. And sorry, I'm not sure I remember to say that it's a CBD-based lotion, but
that's even better. So you could eat it too. Awesome.
Whoa, you can smoke it too, maybe not. Just kidding. Just kidding. Disclaimer. So who are you, Indy?
Yeah, I mean, I was going down this rabbit hole, but I think that gives a context of like, a culture stress identifies that even as an Indian, how I disconnected from, my own heritage of Ayurveda and yoga and Kundalini and all these different practices that just my ancestors were practicing, like literally my mom and her family, like they weren't officially practicing anything, but they were like growing the herbs that they were putting into their food, which was food as medicine, right? And then here I am in medical school having all these issues, right? And it was like, oh my God, what's going on? And eventually it got to the point, my shame built up to a point where I tried to kill myself in medical school. And I don't know if anybody out there, has experienced those feelings of wanting to kill yourself, wanting to get out of whatever's going on. Thank you. Nancy.
I have to, yeah.
And for everybody who's out there, there's never going to be any judgment ever from my end on that feeling, because I didn't see or feel any option, because my family had put so much energy into me being a doctor. I had put so much energy into me being a doctor. And then where was I going to go? What direction was I going to go? And then also I wasn't feeling like I want to be a doctor if I couldn't heal myself. Like here I was having, psoriasis, eczema. They were like, oh, you have IBS. No, you have Crohn's disease. No, you have ulcerative colitis. Oh, we don't know what you got. You got something. Every doctor was saying something different. And I'm like, wait, I'm going to be a doctor and you guys don't know what's happening with me, and for me, when I tried to kill myself in that experience, it was a very powerful, I'm not going to share the details. I think sacred experiences should stay our own and should stay sacred. So when we share with others, it kind of de-sacred, I don't know if that's the right word, but unsacredizes those sacred experiences. But whatever happened in that experience, out of it, it was like, I need to connect to my ancestors. I need to connect to the truth that's within me, right? The self-healing genetic codes that are within me, right? And within nature as well, because we're in nature and we're part of nature and we absorb nature and we integrate with nature. So that led me on a journey. And Nancy, after I got out of that, I'm like, first of all, I'm never going to pay money to a school, okay? And pay them so much money before they give me anything. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find healthy people, or whatever I'm trying to learn. I'm going to find the people who are living that thing I want to learn and learn from them directly, rather than like, here's $50,000. Can you teach me? Now it's like, no, none of that stuff ever again. I never done that since then, but I now have amazing mentors and teachers, not just in Ayurveda, but in technology, in marketing and business and all of them, art and philosophy. Like I've not just stuck to Ayurveda, but Ayurveda itself has so many different sections, right? So I've definitely found amazing mentors and teachers and communities that really focus on certain segments of Ayurveda or embodying those practices of Ayurveda in the community or within themselves, right? And I think we learn the best from embodied knowledge than we do from like, here's a book, read all the book and not take this test.
We need to learn, as you said, from those who actually practice, because the only way, and this is how shamanic medicine is taught, the only way to heal others is to first heal yourself so that you can teach others the path towards healing. And the only way of understanding how medicines work is to do those things on yourself so that you can tell what effects they actually have and you can tell others, this is what you're going to be experiencing. Giving everybody statins doesn't really make any sense, and it actually causes heart issues, for example. So let's really go back to the roots. I love what you did and the fact that you understood, because this is also important. Like, and thank you for sharing your very sensitive story about having those kind of thoughts, because unfortunately I had that too, and I understand what you mean, and it can be a very, very stressful thing to go through a situation in which you are completely detached from your roots. And that's how also the cells in our body start being more prone to death, when they detach from the roots of the tissue they're part of. And because of that, they feel disconnected. And because of that, they are targeted for destruction by the body, and they start undergoing an inner form of depression and death, which is called apoptosis or necrosis afterwards. So this is a mechanism that is ingrained in nature, from bacteria to the highest forms of us, that when we detach from our roots, we start thinking we don't have any function, we don't know where we're coming from, we start getting confused, and because of that, we start thinking of killing ourselves, or like we don't have any reason to exist, to live. And so
yeah.
Self-destruction, absolutely. And so it can be like, how you called it, a acculturative stress, can be, which I call simply capitalism. This is just the exporting of capitalism to India, which has caused the new generations of Indians. They're all scientists, they're all doctors, they're all engineers, which I am a scientist, and I can tell that 99% of scientists are very non-awakened people, are people who are completely rational and completely detached from their intuition.
Nancy, actually, science is a constant pursuit of curiosity, right? And courage. And so the current scientists,
the real scientists,
are not scientists, because they actually conform. And actually, curiosity is what makes you a scientist, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely.
I agree. Yeah. And also just to like
sorry, Robie,
talk more about the like embodied knowledge, because I think that's a really crucial concept. You know, what you're getting from, you know, the Western education system, the way that we are taught to learn, it's a very theoretical kind of philosophical knowledge where you read a book, you maybe jam a bunch of knowledge into your short-term memory, you put that onto the paper in the test, and then 2 weeks later, can you remember anything that you actually studied? Probably not. Maybe you remember a couple key facts that like stood out in your mind, but really the way to develop and to learn and to actually be able to embody the knowledge is by firsthand experience, and by, you know, being around those people that can transmit that knowledge through their own mastery or through their own firsthand experience of what they've learned, what they've been able to do through their own investigations on these topics, not just simply learning about them, but actually putting those practices into practice. So I want to take you back. So you're in medical school, you're not having such a good time, and then you had a big shift happen, and then suddenly you came into the world of Ayurveda. So how did that transition really happen, and how did you like find your way to this kind of new understanding about how you could move forward?
I was really fortunate. Like, first of all, I have to acknowledge my mom. You know, she's like literally a living saint. Okay, like, you know, there's people out there that we recognize them in the past that they're saints, but like sometimes we should recognize people when they're alive that are saints too. We don't have to just wait for them. My mom is definitely a saint. I've never heard her ever speak ill about anyone. She's never ate meat. And not that makes you a saint, but she's like never harmed an animal, right? Whatever, but all that stuff. Never had alcohol. Never, just super amazing human being. Always takes care of people beyond herself. It's amazing. But I got a double whammy. It was interesting. Like the moment, like right after I unsuccessfully tried to kill myself. I like two things came into my field right away. One was my mom. She introduced me to a Babaji, like a Sikh Babaji, a Sikh, you know, that was visiting from India. And, you know, she was like, oh, hey, come meet him with me. Right? Like maybe he can provide you some guidance. All right.
What's a Babaji?
Huh?
What's a Babaji?
Babaji is like, we just say Babaji is like an elder. Like that's
it's like,
it
means
elder.
Revered father, if you want to like give a more literal translation.
Yeah. It's an elder that we respect. A woman would be BBG, you know, Babaji, BBG, right? And so and the next time also, if you ever see an old Indian man, or if you say that, they will love it. All right. Like it's a beautiful way to say respect, like an elder saying Babaji or BBG if it's a woman. But yeah, so she was like, I'll set it up with both of them, right? And this is very important. I think this part of the story is really important because it continues to be a part of my journey and a part of how I show up in the world and how I encourage others to explore, not being polarized, not like ending up on both sides, choosing a side, but actually playing in the middle, you know, being more balanced, right? So she introduced me to this Babaji. right? And I had an epic experience with him. But also at the same exact time, she also introduced me to an Ayurvedic doctor that was like very clinical Ayurvedic doctor from India, like a total Indian, OG, right? That so she like I had these two very different but also super wise people. One was incredibly intuitive. Like when I went to see the Babaji and I sat with him, it was just me and him. He didn't open his eyes the whole time I talked to him. The whole time I talked to him, he didn't open his eyes. He was like just sitting there meditating mala and asking me questions. And I don't know if you guys know that feeling that like when somebody's looking at you and you look behind and they're looking at you, that feeling, they're like invading your aura, your peripersonal space.
Yeah.
Right. You're like, whoa, what the heck? Right. It felt like he was looking at me so deeply, but he didn't open his eyes the whole time. We talked for about an hour and a half, didn't open his eyes. Anyways, that conversation, he kind of reintroduced me to a stick meditation, the Mool Mantra, which was one of Guru Nanak's first poems that he, immortalized into a mantra. And so he reminded me how to practice that as a tool to reconcile with my anxiety, my frustration, whatever I was feeling, whenever I was feeling imbalance in the world or within myself. He was like, here's what you can do. So boom, I got the download of the mantra. The Ayurvedic clinical healer, when I went to go see him, he spent about like 2 hours talking about my mom, my dad, what I used to eat, what my mom ate, like all this information that no doctor, we didn't even learn it in medical school, right? Like how to talk to people about their history of food, but not just history of food, but like, how's your family? How's your emotions? How's your spirituality? How's all this stuff? Like nobody ever asked that in any sort of medical clinical evaluation, right? So it was like super cool to get like a clinical evaluation that also brought in the spirit and brought in the emotions and brought in the family and brought in all these different other elements, nature and my relationship with nature, my relationship with sleep. Now they're starting to do that a little bit more, but like all these different things, he kind of brought all these things into my space. And then he was like, all right, maybe change this in your diet and maybe do this and try this thing out and try this out when you sleep. And I was like, oh, that's kind of similar to what the other guy was saying, but he's intuitive and this guy is giving me clinical specific things. I'm like, all right, let me combine them. Right away, you guys, right away. Like it was crazy. Like within a month, my GI issues were like totally fine. Like it was crazy. Like I was able to I started getting to deep meditations. At nighttime, I would meditate from like 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. like every night. Just like crazy, like deep meditations, amazing visualizations, amazing experiences that today continue to happen. Like those things that I meditated about, those things have like shown up in my life in different ways. But I think more deeply than that was how I was starting to build relationships. Like my ability to discern actually improved. Like the people I was surrounding myself with, the kind of the food and the drinks and the water, like everything, like the information I was inputting into my body was so much more sacred, more pranic, right? If you want to say that, right? Or sattvic, right? And so what started happening was like, oh my God, I'm like, wait, this is like amazing science. Yet like I'm not using any medications and I'm not using like any like invasive methods, right? To like do this self-healing, right? And I mean, I didn't need to go see those guys again. Like I didn't see that Ayurveda. The next time I saw the Ayurvedic doctor, he's like, oh, you're doing better now? I'm like, yeah. He's like, great. I was like, all right, that's it. Okay. Right.
Job done.
He didn't even care. Like, oh, you need to keep coming back. You have 5 more. You have to pay me 5 more times. Like none of that stuff. And for me, that activated within me 2 things. Number one, to recognize the feminine and the masculine, to appreciate that there's the yin and the yang, right? That like sometimes we need both treatments, right? We need the masculine and feminine balance within all of us, right? So for me, that was really important. And then the other aspect of it was, holy cow, Ayurveda is super potent. It's within my culture, right? Of course. And then also like, I can study this on my own. Like I can do it autodidactically. I don't need to go take a class or a course. I don't want to do that, right? I don't want to go to another 4-year college. I'm going to study this. So I started just like studying and sharing. I was big on Facebook that time. I was like sharing all the stuff I was learning. People were loving it. And then a college out of Berkeley was like, hey, like we love what you're doing. Can we pay you to come to our school and like create more content while we're teaching our courses? And I'm like, yeah, free, get paid, and I get to learn. Wait a second. So I think that just opened up the journey through my life to continue meeting more teachers and more mentors and in different spaces of Ayurveda and yoga as well. And to connect with also the aspect of like there's not an end to it. And Ayurveda is one of these things. It's not just about healing yourself, actually. Ayurveda is how do we become the most optimized version of ourselves, right? Like how do you embody the superhero that we all can be? Like we all can be meta-humans or whatever, how, you know, when they have the gods with the multiple arms, that's not how like actually it's about. It's like, how can you multitask? How can you multi-focus? How can you be multi-dimensional, polymathic? That's what Ayurveda helps activate within all of us. Like, how can we be super productive, be resilient, be discerning with what kind of people we collaborate with and who we do and who we associate with and who we don't, and all these different things so that we don't waste time, so that we don't harm ourselves or harm other people. So also we start to create a more harmony in the world, within ourselves and the world, right? That's actually our destiny, is to be creative geniuses. Like that's why we're all here, is to be creative, you know? And why do we be creative? Because we connect through creativity, you know, with nature and ourselves and our destiny, our dharma.
I love what you said
so
about
many.
creativity. Now,
Go ahead, Nancy.
Because ultimately, what we are doing is that the universe is expanding constantly. And so in time, we expand. And so what we do is every one of us is a creator. Every one of us creates the next moment after the present. And so we have to be creative. We have to know what we want to do. And we need to do healthy things that ultimately improve the world. Because if you're building a trap, that's what you're going to find for yourself in the next present moment. And so being creative is really the key to that. But you said so many cool things, and especially about education, about the fact that you don't need to, ultimately, the reason why in capitalistic countries people pay so much for an education is not because they need to pay. I have been paid to go to college as well. And I have a very, very good education. I had got scholarships, but also in Italy, education is public for most part and is 100 times better than the education here. Fortunately for me, unfortunately for people in the United States. And the reason why here people pay so much is for two reasons. One, because it's a way of forcing students to get student loans so that they're forced to get into debt. And so as soon as they get out of college, they're forced to undergo abusive employment and to undergo any kind of corporate job or job in general, and to be part of the system no matter what is asked of them, because at that point they have a loan to pay. And that is the very first reason. The second reason is to create social castes. We really are in a world, especially the Western healthcare is really made of people like at the top who have Munchausen syndrome, and they're simply trying to get us sick to sell us something to cure us.
They're not even healers. They're not even healers. They're business.
They're not healers. No, they're businessmen. Absolutely, absolutely. And I have just recently created a project called Conscious Healthcare, in which I'm gonna involve you soon, because it's really, we need to give back to healers and to empaths and to intuitives, the lead of the healthcare, because right now this is not the one we have right now is not healthcare, is business. And if you have a business that has to do with human pathologies and illnesses, what you're doing is you're farming illnesses. We have become just a mean to produce illnesses through our bodies. They have realized that through stress, environmental stress, our body produces pathologies, and they're farming our illnesses right now, and so that they can sell us things and they survive out of that. So this is really how it works. But Robie, please add what you were about to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really fits in really well with what you're saying, actually. I was gonna just touch on limiting beliefs. And, I think you said a lot about how when your kind of mental frameworks that you had been given from the Western society kind of started to fall apart, you saw all these new opportunities, you saw all these new ways to look at the world. And that's another way that we are oppressed and we are limited by society. There's all of these conditioned limiting beliefs that are put onto us through the education system, through the ways that society like keeps us trapped in these little boxes. You can look at, again, going to the caste system. If you're someone who was raised from, not a place where you necessarily had all the things that you thought you wanted or you needed, then there's this like this feeling of lack, you know? And it's the complete opposite from the abundance that we all can manifest and we all have the power to bring into our lives, you know? When you have this like scarcity mentality, you're held in place. And that's exactly what the people that are, you know, running all of these systems and exploiting everyone want from us. Because, you know, if we all really awaken to our true inner divinity and our true abundance, then, you know, everyone will have enough. But the fact that everyone would have enough, then there's no one to exploit anymore, you know? And so instead, they put us into these little boxes where they both trick us through, you know, the conditioning we receive from, you know, the foods we eat that are promoted through advertising, all the unhealthy food that, you know, leads to low vibrational energy in your body, through the ways that you're taught, through the things that people say, you know, like, oh, are you really smart enough or qualified to do this? You know, the things about money also, where you think that it's an evil thing, right? This is another thing that's definitely been programmed into us, whereas really money is a neutral energy, and it only depends on how it's used that determines whether it's, you know, a force for good or a force for bad. And really, the more pure, open, empathic people that have money, the better the world is going to be. And they're not going to exploit people to get it. They're going to instead give it back to the community. So really conquering those limiting beliefs is such a huge part of the awakening process. And, you know, it can be hard to really even see them in the beginning because they've been so deeply ingrained in us. But it sounds like through your experience, especially through that like environment of high stress where you were kind of pushed to your breaking point, it touching back to like something we've talked about in previous episodes, this point of shattering where the pressures from the outside get so intense that something in your field of awareness just kind of breaks. And it seems like when that happened, also the universe, that opening, that shattering created, opened the way for two amazing teachers and role models to come into your life and completely change the way that you see things, and completely change the way that the path of your life was going, and, you know, started to instill instead, you know, positive abundance forward ideas and holistic ways of living so that you could, you know, become who you are now and lead other people towards their healing journeys as a healer rather than, you know, just as someone who's trying to prescribe another prescription drug to get paid by the pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah, it's funny. I love that you said that. I mean, I think there's a couple of things that you said there that really popped out to me. And one of them was that, you know, one, currency, like just even that word and the language of currency is current. Like currency also is a current for the water and how water flows. And the more water flows and the more healthy it flows, and the more it flows in a wavy pattern, not right angles and not forced, then nature is abundant and ecosystems are abundant, and that biodiversity is abundant, food is abundant, right? And when currency is blocked and it's siphoned and it's hoarded and it's like, and then that's not money anymore. That's something really toxic, actually, you know? And so some people have a lot of money, but they're hoarding it. That's not money. It's something else. It actually is causing them a lot of suffering. I've worked with, since then, you know, I've worked in different capacities as an educator, as a healer with people, billionaire families. I've been an educator for children of billionaire families. And I've seen that they're like as mentally unhealthy and unhappy, and they're billionaires, right? As some of the poorest people I've worked with, right? Just very different mental illnesses, right? One is forced by the system. One is actually by their hoarding, they're actually harming themselves and their children, because their children, like one of the boys I work with, he wanted to kill his mom, 8 years old.
Oh my God.
Because that's unfortunately very common. And again, how the universe works, like the children of people who are very wealthy but very very sick in the end, for them to become so wealthy that they don't care about the fact that there are so many poor people that allow them to be wealthy. So people have to suffer for them to be wealthy. They have to detach so much from their intuition that they create sick children in a sense. And now there is a lot of mental illnesses, or people who are so wealthy tend to also have children who are lesser capable, lesser intelligent, lesser like physically disabled, because that's the universe placing a stop to their capability of reproducing themselves. Because if you harm the universe so much, then the universe stops in some way, because otherwise you're going to destroy the whole system. So it's really like an automatic system that works that way. And I love what you said about money, the fact that this thing of withdrawing money from the system and so accumulating it, because ultimately the universe, as we said, is expanding, and this is scientifically explained. It's not just that I'm saying that it's expanding.
It's going faster. It's expanding faster now.
Yeah, it's expanding in exponentially. And I have written a book, The Fractal Universe, that you guys can find on my website, in which I explain why it's exponential in the end, because it's a fractal, and fractals start exponentially expanding towards the end. I mean, in general, they exponentially expand. And not only that, so nothing is created and nothing is destroyed. So the only thing we can do, despite the United States pretends that they're printing money and so they always have more money, that's not how the universe works. Nothing is created, nothing is destroyed means that the only thing you can do to accumulate wealth is to withdraw wealth from someone else. And so the only way of becoming richer is to making someone else become poorer. And then if you don't bring it back to the community, you're gonna love this. You were up to something. If you guys are now seeing the video, it's just playing like a very cool background with like a spiral of money instead of a spiral.
Fractal money.
Infinitely expanding in abundance.
So what they're doing right now, and this is a very, very sophisticated strategy that most people have not understood. What the capitalistic, I'm dying, sorry guys, I can't, because you have to see the video, what they're doing. It's just like check YouTube and Spotify to check the video if you like. But really what is happening today in the world is that what capitalism has caused is that all these people on top of the social hierarchy, now they fear so much of being the homeless ones that they have created that they will do anything in their power to keep that position. And so they have created, if once aristocracy will create fences, and then they had all those ways of separating themselves, their castles from the population. In time, those strategies have simply become more sophisticated and more covered, because we are still doing that. And so now the way in which it works is that it's like people at the top of the hierarchy of society have created a sort of semi-permeable membrane that separates them between the population and them. So what happens is that what they do is they hire us and they make us work for their companies with passion, and they sell us products and they make us convince us that we need those things, and they indoctrinate us and they give us fast foods. And so they initially tell us, this is good for you, this is nice for you. And once we are in the system, we give our resources to them, which they take. And that's why it's a semi-permeable membrane, because they take those resources. But once they have those resources, they start rejecting us, and so we never get back what we have invested. We never get back anything, and so the rejection phase starts, and so we get bounced back by this system. And so what we have given never actually returns back to us. And so we are basically the population is being drained and impoverished by all these few people, who then, in case we want to say, hey, I invested in this thing, or I bought this product and it didn't turn out to be actually effective, or I send my kids to school, but they actually are not finding a job, or like all these things that ultimately go wrong because we're being defrauded constantly. What happens is that then they have call centers, and so you call and it's a stonewalling strategy, and then you have lawyers and you stonewall, and then you have a jurisdictional system, and it is simply a maze meant to delay the population from the capability of getting justice. But at the same time, you have the police that acts immediately, the traffic enforcement that acts immediately, so all these things that are at the level of the population oppress the population immediately. But every time the population needs to find relief from the fraud that receives from the system, that is very, very slow. And that creates this semi-permeable membrane that allows these people to keep their money for a longer time, and for us to never actually get relief from the issues we undergo through due to their greed. And ultimately the reason why they're greedy is their fear of falling down there, because they know that what it means to be poor, because most of the times they create poverty, or they come from poverty, or they see poverty.
They're disgusted by it. They're disgusted by it.
What?
They're disgusted by it.
They're not only that's disgusted, but it's about yourself. You measure the world based on yourself, right? And so imagine if you're a rich dude who sees the suffering of others and doesn't care. He's going to think that if that happens to him, nobody's gonna help him, because that's the kind of people you have in the world. Because bad people, like people who are non-empathetic, non-nice. I quoted bad because nobody's actually bad. It's just a matter of trauma and like healing. But if people who are not healed and are sadistic or traumatized, and they don't empathize with others, they think that everybody's like them ultimately. And so they obviously fear of falling down with the rest of the population, because if they do, they know for a fact, because they are like that nobody's going to help them, that nobody's going to empathize with them. And actually that they're going to be exploited even more because they're more vulnerable. So this is the kind of system we live in. So you started learning about Ayurveda then. And so I would like, because we talked about very briefly at the beginning about the Pitta energy, and then you mentioned the Sattva and the pranic food. And I'm actually currently on also a functional diet that I'm kind of inventing myself, thanks to having my own realizations of how my body works. And I really reconnected with my body. So I started really basically eating medicinal food mostly. And so everything that I put in my body, from music to food to anything else, is really something that heals me and that helps me be more resilient, more responsive, more focused. And so that's exactly what you're saying. So I would like for you to explain this concept of like Pitta, Prana, Sattva for our audience, and to explain what do you mean that Ayurveda actually kind of helps you be better, helps you be superhuman, or like more. I don't like the word super in general, because it makes it feel that it's different than the norm. This is actually the normal path that we all should go towards. The problem is that we've been disconnected to a cultural stress, cultural stress. So do you want to explain that?
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, to complete also what you said and reflect what you said about the culture and the political, socio-political, economic systems that are running things all around the world now. It's a multinational, international syndicate now. It's no longer just country by country. It's interwoven. As we saw, we just got everything shut down. Mind you, that's not the end of shutdowns. You better believe there's going to be more stuff happening in the next few years. Maybe even this year. It's an election year. Some things seem to happen every election year. Interesting. But that's also like, I mean, I want to reflect that, Nancy, in the context that this is one of my challenges and frustrations with the yoga and Ayurveda world, at least the Western version of it, because I have relationships with people in India that practice Ayurveda and yoga in the community, socioeconomic, politically. They do that with Ayurveda in India. But here when people bring yoga and Ayurveda here, they disconnect from politics. They disconnect from economic relevance and socioeconomic, like showing up socioeconomically. Like actually, like everybody tries to be rich and wealthy doing yoga and Ayurveda here, instead of actually paying attention to the needs of the people who need it the most, the children who need it the most, the communities that need it the most, right? It's like the opposite here. It's like they pick up Ayurveda and yoga and they're like, oh, we want to just be like the rich people. It's like, no, that's yoga and Ayurveda is actually understanding we're all connected, right? And if we're all connected, if anything's suffering anywhere around us, we're suffering. So we want everybody to be abundant and thriving. And if anybody's suffering around us, we're going to feel it subconsciously. So you could be as healthy and rich and whatever as you want, but you're going to get a cancer eventually if your neighbors are literally homeless.
Absolutely.
The cancer is going to build within you.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, I have no idea how much aligned I am with what you're saying right now, because I really can see that, like, especially we live in LA. I live in LA. Like in LA, the spiritual community is the real spiritual community. The most authentic spiritual people are actually very marginalized. And those who practice yoga and spirituality are, for most part, people who do not actually care about homelessness. They do think they care. They do say they care. They do give, and they get praised because they give. But they constantly don't understand that, again, there's no way of getting richer unless someone else is getting poorer. And so it's just really a very whitewashed way of doing things. And let's use the term whitewash, because I think that's really what it is.
That's racist, Nancy.
I'm sorry.
I have some white in me, okay? I have some Greek in me, all right? So
I'm white.
Yeah, it's like, the people in LA, I don't know, when I was living in LA, the people giving money to the homeless man, but then they're also recording it for their Instagram reels,
Yeah,
and that's the thing, when you really are deeply caring about the welfare of everyone, you do it without any any caring for what that brings to you. You don't have any stake in the game. So you give, and you don't even care what the person's reaction is, because you know that you're doing the right thing for the right reason. And that's kind of the energy that we need to bring more into this world. Don't not looking at ourselves, but looking at the greater picture, doing good things because they're good things, not because it's going to get us some kind of reward, or give us a couple extra points on the social credit hierarchy,
Karma
get us a few likes on
points, bro. I'm
Instagram.
doing the karma points. Hold on one second. Where's my karma points? Oh, look at my hand. Hold on, it's right there. Look, I got an extra point right there, right there, right there.
Yeah.
I keep like on dating apps, every time I see someone who has a picture of, now I'm not using dating apps anymore, but every time I will see someone with a picture of them feeding Black children in Africa, I'm like,
how many times do you see this on dating apps?
Oh my gosh, you have
It's a lot.
no idea how many
It's a lot.
it's an
indicator. It's like a social,
oh my God.
Right? People are using it for a social cue. But to complete that thought, we do Ayurveda. People focus on Ayurveda, yoga, Tai Chi. Now everybody's trying to there's all these, now there's like that cold plunge. Everybody keeps doing these things for their self, for the little self. I'm trying to be little self healthy, right? But this little self you're an ecological system within the greater ecological system. So if the greater ecological system is falling apart, whether it's the humans, the animals, the nature, it's falling apart. It doesn't matter what you're doing in here. So what I'm trying to articulate is that Ayurveda, real Ayurveda, also takes care of socioeconomic, political, philosophical systems as well. It's not just about the person. It's not just about your tribe. It's about, hey, we're connected. Everything's got to thrive for us to thrive, right?
So how does it do that? Like in India, how does, because right now I'm sure that a lot of people know the word Ayurveda, and Ayurveda is very much in our imaginary, like how we think about it is basically really a science that studies, or a philosophy, you want to call it, that studies how nutrition and relationships and things in a 360.
Well, nutrition is just a small part of it.
People mostly know the part related to nutrition, herbal medicine, I think, and also body pressure points and things related to like body energy. I feel like those are the main things that people think about when they think about Ayurveda. So I would like for you to just really talk about how in India Ayurveda is, or like how Ayurveda actually is supposed to be, or the real non-whitewashed version of Ayurveda is, and what these kind of energies we mentioned are.
Sure. That's a great question. It lends to two things. I'm really grateful and fortunate and blessed to be in the Sikh community, right? To be a Sikh, to come from the Sikh heritage and the Sikh culture, because the Sikh culture actually evolved by being an Ayurvedic collective, Ayurvedic community, multi-religious, multi-racial, gender equal, right? Actually, when it formed, initially it was like women also have power, just like men, right? And the other thing about it was it's focused on ecology and farming and nature and stewardship of nature. Because when nature is abundant, there's less fighting with the community because there's food and there's water and safety.
That's so interesting.
Right. And so the original Sikhism, they built these gurdwaras. So you can find these gurdwaras all over India that still to this day, if you're traveling to the Himalayas and there's a gurdwara, you can stay at the gurdwara for free. The only invitation is anybody who wants to benefit from the gurdwara, give something back. So like maybe you clean a little bit, maybe you make some food, maybe you wash the dishes, whatever it is. Mind you, these gurdwaras, at the gurudwaras, whenever you go in, there's music being played, there's music being sung, there's mantras, the vibration is very sacred, right? So even people who have mental illness, or maybe they've committed a crime, they can come there and rehabilitate, and they're not judged. It's a place for reconciling and rehabilitation. So that's Ayurveda in the context of a culture that formed from Ayurveda, that like, hey, food is medicine. Hey, vibration is medicine. Hey, meaningful work and meaningful community and sacred community. These are also a part of where money is not the thing that's running everything, or power is not the thing running everything.
But
there's
love.
something deeper. It's love. There's something deeper. So that's Ayurveda, right? It's actually our interconnectedness, yoga, union, right? That our interconnectedness, that kind of love, it gets things done. Like actually that love, it gets things done. So if somebody's suffering, that suffering is my own. I'm going to do something about it. At least maybe just listen. Maybe I don't have to even do anything. Maybe it's just me being present, right? But it's actually making the effort. actually. You never know. Maybe I know somebody who can help somebody. Maybe you know somebody, and we all come together and we can totally transform a whole situation because of our skills and our relationships, right? So anyways, that's Gurdwaras. The other thing, Nancy, to answer your question, I'm on the board of advisors for a community orphanage project in Varanasi. And that is not just Ayurvedic, but it's like, it's really freaking cool because they have support from the government, which the government's like so hard, right, in India to get support from. And then they also have support from the local gangsters, right? Like literally the local mobsters also support it, right? Because of the intention of the space, right? So you have like all these different factors where usually there's corruption and bad management and everything, but because of the intention of this space, everybody in the community supports it because they see that it's an Ayurvedic entity, that it's supporting everybody. It's actually like rippling out to the benefit of everyone. And so it's not just an orphanage. We do after school programming for about 500 children after school. Any children that end up coming and being adopted by the community, some of them, like when I say local mobsters, some of those mobsters actually sell us their kids. Like, you know, some of them they use them to like raise money, right? Like they'll like, wow. Yeah, right. And so like they're on the streets, you know, begging and stuff. Like they give them to us. Like sometimes now, like even more and more, if their kids are having troubles, whatever, they're like, give them to us. What happens is we don't even do any education with them. There's no Western education. None of that stuff happens. First, they learn that they're infinite. Like they get Ayurvedic treatment, food as medicine, like just love, hugs, music, the community, and also being told that they're infinite. Like you're not Muslim, you're not Hindu, you're not Christian. Before that, you can be anything. Right. And then once they start getting healed and happy and healthy, that's when we start introducing information and science and math and art and sociology and history. Right. And then they learn Sanskrit. And they learn Sanskrit philosophy and how to debate in Sanskrit philosophy, which is totally different than Western philosophy because it's stories within stories. Like Sanskrit philosophy is actually stories within stories within stories that have parables and virtues and morality, and also give you practical ways to deal with situations in your world, whether it's politics or it's your family or whatever. It gives you practical things, but they're puzzles. So like Sanskrit philosophy is also a mixture of puzzles, fractal puzzles. You would like that. This psychological fractal. Right? That's the Mahabharata is a psychological fractal. So is Bhagavad Gita, because Bhagavad Gita is in the Mahabharata, right? So like you have fractal storytelling, which is a part of Sanskrit philosophy. So these kids they learn all this stuff. And the ones who are like older now, because this has been around now for 9 years, 10 years, oh my gosh. The older ones now are like mentoring the younger ones that are coming in.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And the older ones now are going, like one just joined the military and he's now teaching yoga and Ayurveda in the military to other people in the military. So they're infiltrating different systems.
I love this.
Right? So
yeah, like this is what the world needs, honestly, because I think, you know, education is such a huge bedrock of our society. And you see what happens when you have a like very materialistic Western education system like we have here. You have people growing up with all these limiting beliefs, all of these mental illnesses, you know, not being set up for actual success in life, just being taught things that they need to kind of fit into the system and play a role for the, like you're saying before, for, you know, to get more wealth for the people that are actually in charge of that system. But instead, if you empower people to be healers and to be holistic and to, like you're saying, knowing that they're infinite, when you know you're infinite, your love is infinite and you have the infinite capacity to give. And the more kids that are raised like this, the more people in general, but kids especially, because, you know, when you get into some of these mental frameworks and then you become an adult and you start to realize, oh shit, like something's not working right up here, like something's not working right in here. I'm in a place where now I need to go back and heal the inner child. I need to go back and unlearn all the stuff that I've already learned. And it's a really big process of kind of diving into yourself. But that whole problem can be avoided from the first place if you just educate kids in the right place and give them the right environment that actually helps them thrive and helps them grow in a holistic way. It's so huge, because that's the way that we change the future, is by changing the way that people are, and the easiest way to do that is through education. And that's why also so many, you know, Indian saints and gurus have set up their own schools where, you know, they teach kids not only like mathematics and sciences in the Western sense, but yoga. Like one of the first things when you go into one of these schools, at least the ones that I've heard of, is they sit you down and, okay, this is how you're supposed to breathe, you know, like this is one of the most basic things that you should know how to do. But would you ever learn that in a Western school? No.
before you eat, you honor the food and the people who made the food, and you honor like that simple thing is a huge game changer for kids, you know? To honor. And also I want to add in there for you guys and all your listeners, this place is called Yoga Mission, yogamission.uk. It's actually a British nonprofit. And you guys are welcome to go, and your listeners are welcome to go. And it's very different, Nancy, than those places of people taking pictures with the kids, feeding the kids. This is the opposite. The kids will teach you. They'll teach you Sanskrit. They'll teach you yoga. They'll teach you meditation. They'll teach you actually. Like, so if anybody, we also always welcome people to go and volunteer there. You can stay there. We have a couple of rooms at that orphanage you can stay at with the kids. You can learn Sanskrit. You can hang out with them. They'll take you around town. It's freaking awesome. Varanasi is beautiful. But also what we also invite people to do when they go there is just, they're such sponges because we're setting them up so that they're sponges. So they're not, we don't force them to learn. They want to learn. They're curious. They're courageous. So whatever you guys want to teach, Nancy, if you ever want to teach like quantum physics out there, they're going to absorb it. So anybody in your listeners that ever want to go to India, be able to give something, but actually also receive at the same time. So it's not like something that you're just showing off that you're feeding the kids. It's actually something super circular. Right. I think that's a really great place to connect with. So yogamission.uk. I just want to give them a shout out.
That's beautiful. Yeah. And I think that what you said about,
by the way, anybody wants to make these around the world, that's the template. So if we want to make it in California, we want to make it in Florida, we want to make it in Costa Rica, we got the template. So let's make them. There's so many foster youth that don't have homes. There's so many, it's increasing actually. Right now.
I like what you say. I wanted to add something on the part that you teach them that they're infinite. I think something that really made me the person that I am is that I have been taught in a way that I believe that was infinite in a sense, to the point that as a 5-year-old, I started inventing this meditation by myself without nobody. My family is not spiritual, not even religious that much. And I invented this meditation in which I would imagine of being the universe, basically one layer. And now I teach it in my classes, like something I invented as a 5-year-old. And it was really, really awakened and beautiful because you really gave me the feeling of being the whole universe and of my body being this small piece in the middle of like a huge place with so many people around, and we all are connected when we all are one. And the fact that you teach these kids that they're infinite, it is what it makes them sponges. Because if you know you're infinite, you're a sponge. And instead, that's why, unfortunately, oftentimes in orphanages, as much as in school or in so many other things and situations, instead, we are usually taught that we are limited, so that at the same time, again, we can become tools in a sense, because if you teach people that they're limited, they also tend to afterwards not being able to learn, not being able to become independent, because that's what you're saying. You're like, you can go and visit this place and kids are going to teach you, because kids are not victims there. They are empowered. And once they're empowered, they can do anything and they can actually lead. And that's why oftentimes we are not actually taught that we are powerful, because if we are powerful, then we can lead. And if we want to lead, then we're going to try to overturn society. And so that's why we are
one of our mottos for this place is that we're instead of these kids being victims, we are creating agents of change.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And you are. Some of them are going to the military, as you're saying, and they're teaching yoga. They're infiltrating in various systems, and they're changing the system from the inside. Because oftentimes when the military hires an orphan, as much as our corporate hires an orphan, what they think they're hiring is someone who is dependent from them for survival, because they don't have roots. And instead, what they're actually getting is someone who is bringing consciousness to their system and is changing it. So what you're doing, guys, is incredible. And you're actually creating a chain reaction of change that is going to change the world very quickly. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to just really close this episode with
wait, before you close, let me just, I didn't even answer. I'm like, I'm so sad about that. I didn't answer the Vata Pitta.
So when do you have to, just to make sure, how long do you still have to stay in this episode? Because I don't know, I'm not in your time zone. So you were saying you have to leave at noon?
Yeah, actually, it's funny that I'm supposed to attend a meeting about bioregional finance. There's a huge movement happening about focusing on different bioregions. Talking about Ayurveda, right? Like how we have to heal bioregions, and we can't just keep like going from state or country. That we need to like actually be focused on certain bioregions that have certain types of food that grow in those bioregions, that have certain types of water systems and supporting those. So actually, I'm going to a thing that can help focus on how do we heal the bioregions. But which I have a couple of minutes, and I just wanted to share, like that's why bringing a Vata Pitta Kapha is related to that bioregions, because we also are a bioregion, right? We're an ecosystem, we're an ecology within our body. And Vata Pitta Kapha, if I were able to like really easily synthesize the difference between Western medicine, like allopathic medicine, like what traditionally is used in hospital systems around the world now, right? It's not actually we say it's normal, but that's actually the weird one. Like, they say alternative medicine. The one we use now is alternative medicine.
Right.
It's not the medicine.
It was made up, and it's been made by a certain type of people, and we're like a certain type of race and a certain type of thinking, right? That everybody else is stupid and ugly and dumb and whatever, right? So it's like, wait, well, that's who made this medicine, right? But anyways, so Western allopathic medicine is focused on biochemistry, right? Like it's all on biochemistry, right? Everything is like,
most surface level that you can treat, which is not the root cause, the most surface that you can treat constantly, because the surface, you can use the surface as we use the soil to farm things. You cannot heal the root and then expect for more pathologies to be created.
Exactly.
So they keep just curing the soil, so the more things are created.
Yeah, well, because if you think about things biochemistry, you're just always going to be analyzing the data. You're going to be like, oh, here's the data saying you're low on this iron. You're low on this. Oh, you know what? You're low on iron. Here, eat these iron pills. Here, do this. That's what happened. You used to talk about statin. Oh, you're like, the thing is like you have low activation in your heart. Okay, so take this medication, this biochemistry medication that's going to activate your biochemistry. So everything is very biochemistry, okay? Whereas traditional medicines, right? Normal medicines like TCM, Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, indigenous medicines from around the world with South America, Africa, right? All these things, they focus on physics. So that's important to understand the difference, right? Physics now, it cares about, what are the three states of matter? The three states of matter?
Solid, liquid, gas.
Right. So that's physics, right? So that's Pitta, Vata, Kapha, right? Solid, liquid, gas. So you can see how like in Ayurveda, it's actually integrated way before modern physics goes, oh, there's solid, liquid, gas. There was Ayurveda that had identified, hey, there's these different states of matter, and they're going in and out of each other, these states of matter. And mind you, these states of matter are also connected to the elements. So you have, what are the four elements? You remember, Nancy?
Fire, soil, air, and water.
Water, right? So those are integrated within those doshas, right? So you have Vata, Pitta, Kapha, but within each of those is earth, water, fire, and air, right? Interwoven into those. And so if you start to analyze yourself, and then you also analyze the world, you can see how like on an individual and a collective scale, these things can get imbalanced. It can become too liquidy or too airy or too solid. And then those things have different kind of associations. That's a whole different discussion. But like in a really small synthesis, it's like, hey, like you could even analyze your emotions on these contexts. You can analyze your physical nature in this context. You could analyze your community, right? Some communities are very airy, right? Some communities are very solid. They're hard to move. Some communities are very liquidy. Everybody's crying or angry or whatever all the time, right? Like you can see now how like these physics ideas are interwoven in both psychological and physical aspects, and also integrate with what kinds of foods we eat, what kind of environments we live in, and how those affect us, right? You can see how when you go to a dry environment, your skin gets dry, so you need more liquid, right? So you're starting to get more vata because you're in a dry environment. So you can start to actually proactively improve your health when you understand the dosha. So that's a low-hanging fruit, just sharing that. I think that can be expanded into whole discussions. I mean, I've, with my mentors and teachers and friends and colleagues, we've had like amazing conversations about this that have gone into like all kinds of crazy spaces because there's so much to discuss in this. And you talk about Ayurveda. This is just one component of Ayurveda. You can see I was talking about psychology. If you want to go deeper into Ayurveda, there's like metaphysical, mystical aspects where once you start activating these certain elements, you can actually start activating and relationships with interdimensional beings, right? Or maybe time travel, or maybe like connecting to planets, right? And actually be able to listen and communicate between planets, right? And like we can go into many different things because it's so crazy and awesome. But I certainly think it's something to be for us to be more imaginative and curious about Ayurveda, and also to be wary, to like have caution of not just following somebody because they're an influencer in Ayurveda, to always just have your own study, your own discovery, go and research books and read books and not just stuck to the internet, go to a library or go to India, go find these temples where the books are all laid out, right? The Vedas are massive. There's tons and tons of them. Ask questions to the monks there, help out, volunteer, cook some food for the monks, clean at the temple, and they'll give you so much more knowledge if you clean. If you clean, you'll get more than giving them money. Okay, you can give them money too, but like if you clean, you're going to get more wisdom and knowledge, right? And access to that knowledge and wisdom. So please, everybody, please be discerning about these Ayurvedic people and yoga people out there. Like always question people. And if they're not open to being questioned, that's not a good teacher. That's it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here today, for being with us, for all your wisdom, and for everything you're doing in the world, really, for like the chain of change that you are creating, thanks to your missions, thanks to your projects, and all the people who I'm sure work with you and collaborate with you in your projects.
You're going to come and collaborate.
And them too, and we're going to be actually attending one of your meetings and projects and events in less than a month. It's going to be the weekend of the 3rd of August, if I'm correct. Mm-hmm. And the cooperation, I can't wait. I can't wait to attend.
I got something for you.
What? What's that? Oh, the crow. I love it. That was the highlight of the episode.
Yeah.
So, do you want to add anything? Thank you for coming.
Yeah, or if you have anything that you want to promote, I mean, it's like we like to give our guests like a couple minutes to, share anything they're working on, give people a way to like connect with them if they're open to that. So anything you want to share now before we close would be great.
Yeah, thanks, man. I really appreciate it. And both of you, also, I just want to honor both of you. Thank you for holding the space. And you both, I mean, I feel you both can just have a podcast just talking yourself. Both of you have so much knowledge and experience and wisdom. It's really beautiful to be in space with you and to be honored as well. So thank you for seeing me. Yeah, I mean, I think the low-hanging fruit is what Nancy shared is, this is something that's coming into my field a lot more. I'm in collaboration with amazing people. I've been very discerning over the past few years of who I collaborate with and who I partner with. And what that's done and what that's led to is being a part of these amazing communities where we want to be problem solvers together. Right. So when we're like looking at problems, we're like, how do we solve them together? And it's really fun showing up together. So the project that Nancy's going to be joining at is the start of many projects like this, where we bring regeneration to communities, to farms, to ecosystems, and we make that fun. So we like dance and play music and share culture and mythology. And we talk about Bhagavad Gita and Mahabharata and Tao Te Ching and the, what is that one thing, the thing that everybody does, the patterning thing, the gene keys. And we do all these different activities and stuff around doing eco restorations. And we've even started going to festivals, like Bhakti Fest will be there this year. We have a whole stage at Bhakti Fest, a regenerative village stage. We're going to be planting trees at the fest. We're going to be taking the food waste from the festival and putting it in the soil. So all the food that everybody's throwing away, we're going to actually be feeding it to the soil. So the earthworms, the plants can regenerate. So this is what we're doing more and more of. Cosmic Labyrinth is the collective, the community, but we're just a bunch of educators and burned out professionals. And we're like, wait, none of the systems that we've been a part of really help us. Whether you're a healer or an engineer or a teacher or whatever you are, you're not able to do what you want to do. So we created our own business where we go and do what we want to do, both at gatherings that are already happening and conferences and festivals, but we also just make our own conferences and festivals too. So we're like, we can do both. So I encourage people to tune into Cosmic Labyrinth. However you want to, you could just come and attend and participate, or you can become a teacher with us and actually participate in a deeper way and become a teacher and a facilitator. We call them empowered leaders, right? Be an empowered leader with us, right? And we're cooperative too. So that's why cooperation, right? We're all about being cooperative. There's no top of the pyramid. There's no pyramid, right? We're actually creating a fractal. Right?
I love it. And do you have a website or a page?
It's called cosmiclabyrinth.world. And if you keep an eye out, we're actually in talks right now with developers. We're going to be developing a directory. So a really cool cosmic directory that's going to be really fun. So we're gamifying what we're doing, which is really fun around mythology and eco-cultural restorations. So that's one thing. And the other thing that I care about deeply is political hope, which is a podcast that I have that is also my healing, my political shamanism for myself, because I'm frustrated with the way things are. I don't know about you guys, but like the system, like you said, Nancy, like what the heck is going on here? What can we do? So I interview people who are doing awesome stuff. And I also interview people as a way to kind of build a relationship, because when you honor people and you interview them, they're more receptive to your ideas. So I interview mayors and council members and senators. And then my podcast is not just like, tell me all the cool stuff you do. It's like, here's some ideas. What do you think? And they're like, oh, I never thought about that. Right. So I think I hope people listen to my podcast as a way to heal their relationship with the word politics. Because right now, if you're afraid of politics, it's only going to get worse. You can't be afraid of the thing that you're a part of. You're like, absolutely. At the end of the day, politics, it's around us and it's affecting us all the time. So we have to transmute that, right? And turn that into power and courage and light. You would talk about light and shadow work. We can't just ignore the shadow. We have to face the shadow and reconcile with it. So political hope. And then last but not least, I'm also on a nonprofit called cultivatingself.org, which is focused on reimagining healthcare. So Nancy, that's one of the things we're talking about. This nonprofit is really focused on educating healers and empowering healers to take care of themselves, and also to learn cultural medicine, to learn food as medicine, that like actually taking care of farms and taking care of nature is also a part of the medicine that our communities needs. And we also do projects where we do not just retreats, but we also do projects where we transform hospital spaces. Like we brought gardens into hospital spaces, hospital waiting rooms and stuff like that. So we do actually cool stuff like that too, where we want to transform spaces that are not very healthy for everybody, right? Doesn't matter who it is. So yeah, thank you guys.
Oh, beautiful. Thanks for sharing all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you so much for being on our podcast and sharing your time and energy and space with us. And it was great speaking with you today. And for those of you guys listening, I hope that some of this stuff that we said resonates. And if you want to connect more, we'll put all the links that Indy just shared down in the description so you can check those out. And again, thank you all for tuning in today, and we'll see you on the next one.
Should I play some flute on the way out?
Yeah, do it.
What?
What do you guys think? All right, let's see what comes through. Let's see what the crow plays. All right, let's see. You want to pin my video? No, hold on, let's see. Oh no, it's not even. Hold on, let's do this.
For you guys, he's trying to play, guys.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being playful as well, because this is incredible. We need to reconnect with our inner child. And so I hope everybody enjoys it. And again, please let us know what you think. Q&A, use the Q&A and comment section. Not only psychopaths use that section. You do that too if you do it in a nice and conscious way.
Yeah, please make fun. You're welcome to make fun of me, criticize me, whatever. It's okay. I'm cool with it.
Absolutely. And you can find me at the website 360holisticcoach.com or on Instagram at 360holistic.coach. And you can find Robie at...
It's at my Instagram page, which is at Robie Newman-Paris, my full name. So yeah, looking forward to connecting with all you guys. And we'll see you on the next episode.
See you. Bye, everyone.